Hello and
Hello and
welcome
welcome.
to the Turn 4 podcast. I am your host, Dan Maldonado. If you're a new listener, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. This podcast comes from two lifelong fans of IndyCar and other forms of motorsports. Before we get started, let me introduce you to my giggly co-host, Tim Reiner. Hey, Timmy.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Why so
Man,
giggly tonight, Timmy?
I don't know. The opening stint here has been very tough. Trying to get the intro done, but we got through it.
You think I'd know it after today's 57 episodes? You'd think I'd know it.
Yeah, you think you'd know it by heart, but it is what it is. We kind of muscle through that.
Well, I'm a little out of my settings, right? I'm in a hotel room. I've been traveling all day today.
Yeah, you're somewhere close to Middle America or something today. I don't know what you're doing, but
I'm in downtown, beautiful St. Louis, Missouri. I'm a mere blocks from the St. Louis Arch.
Very nice. Is it lit up tonight?
And I'm like 4 or 5 blocks from this Starbucks at a Hilton.
Oh my goodness!
That I walked to.
Is it lit up tonight?
Just like no, it was dark. It was dark.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, good. Hopefully, you're having a good time in St. Louis. Nothing's really going on there, though, right? It's got to be.
Not today, no.
Yeah.
Nothing I know.
Good. I'm at my usual spot for those that can't see, but
yeah, you are. And your makeup person did a remarkable job today. You're all one. You're all very even today. No shine.
We're trying to get the shine away from my bald head, so I think the makeup artist did really well today. Yeah, very good. Yep.
That's awesome, Timmy.
I'm dressed up. You're not. It's just another day.
Yeah, long sleeve t-shirt.
Yeah, and sweatpants in case
that's
anybody
right.
wants to
Joggers.
know.
Right. I'm at an age where I call them sweats. The kids call them joggers.
Well, they're like a new style than they used to be when we were young, right?
I don't know. I was in the car all day.
All
hey,
right.
Tim, did you know that there was testing last week? IndyCar preseason.
That's what I heard.
We call it spring training.
Yeah. Somewhere in the Palm Springs, Palm Desert area is what I hear.
Yep. Place called Thermal.
Yeah. Which I've been there. It's beautiful there.
Yes, you have.
And I think the rest of the IndyCar fans got to see how nice it is there. And
pictures were beautiful.
Yeah, the track is in beautiful condition. It's a private course, country club like, and the BMW driving experience is there. That's how I got to go and got to drive some cars around the track. And I'll tell you what, they're quick, and Indy cars are really quick too.
Yeah, they were.
Mm-hmm.
I like to play a game called Big Deal or Big Deal. Right. So let me give you a couple of things here, Timmy. Cal Kirkwood on top after day 2. Big deal or big deal?
It's a big deal.
Okay.
It's a big deal because he comes off of being with Foyt, comes into Andretti Autosport, who has not performed very well, and he's on the top of the charts after day 2 or day 1, whatever it was, after day 2. And it's impressive. He was in the top 3, I think, in 3 of the sessions, and then one of them he wasn't, but he didn't run any laps. That he ran a single lap in that one session. So I think it's huge. I think it shows his talent. I don't know if I'm Devlin what I'm thinking, right? You're in the same equipment, same car, and you got Kyle that comes in and does a great job in practice. I know it's practice, but it's still, I think it shows promise, right?
Practice.
Yep.
I don't know if you're Devlin or if you're Grosjean, what you're thinking there, because neither one of those two were taking any key headlines out because, as luck would have it, Herta Mania 2.0 was fast in sessions 1 and 2. Tim, is this a big deal or big deal?
It's a big deal. I think it's a big deal, and it's not just a big deal. Like, who cares? I think it's more of is Andretti Autosport back? You even look at, you mentioned Grosjean. Grosjean was 7th in practice 1, we'll call it P1, and P2 he was 4th. And then I've got some notes here on P4. I don't know exactly where he was there. I can't see it, but overall, it looks like Andretti Autosport is back. And I know it's just practice, but it's promising for everybody. 13th
Yeah.
in practice 4.
I am happy at those results, certainly, and certainly happy for Kirkwood because he's coming off a pretty tough year with Voigt. Is it a big deal? No. To me, it's a big deal. Who cares? Only because it's practice. We don't know what the programs are. We don't know what they were running. We don't know what they were looking at or what they were working on. So it's hard to say. I think from an Andretti standpoint, there's a couple of things to me. First is they got to get their house in order, right? It was a rough year for them last year outside of Hertamania 2.0. Okay. So outside of that, they do have to get some things together. They got to get Devlin on some sort of track. They got to get Grosjean back to, I mean, Tim, we talked about it. Grosjean looked better in the coin cars than he did in the Andretti cars.
Yeah,
and from a resource standpoint, that should not be the case at all. He even brought his own his engineer over from coin. So, you know, he's got to get something going on in year 2 there. The second consideration for Andretti when it comes to this is who's the team leader, right? Is Grosjean capable of doing it? Probably, but is he? I don't know. Is Herta capable of doing it? Maybe, but he's not dynamic, right? He's not a big dynamic personality. They are not Alexander Rossi. So I don't think
he's a leader,
Rossi
though,
leaving.
honestly.
Oh, I do. I think Rossi definitely, if he feels strongly about something, he's going to voice his opinion. He's going to talk and let you know what he feels during those engineering debriefs. Without
for the betterment of the team.
Yep.
Okay.
I do. So I think they're gonna lose out a little bit there with Rossi being gone. Who steps into the void? Not sure.
So are you predicting they're going to do worse this year in Andretti Autosport than they did last year? Or do you think
I actually think they're going to do about the same?
About the same.
Yeah.
You know, and just looking at lap times from practice 1 to practice 4, they took a second and a half off their time. So I'm assuming
the track gets rubbered in and, they know what they're doing a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think anybody was just out there, doing laps, but I could be wrong. They went through several different setups. I heard some of the drivers talking about, we checked the box on the 5-6 things we wanted to do. And I'm assuming one of those boxes is let's see what kind of raw speed we can get out of this car and what tweaks we need to make in order to get it there. So I think it's really promising for Andretti Autosport and the drivers. And I think Herta is the leader of that team. I don't think there's any doubt that he's going to be
the leader on pace and on results, but like leader wise, I don't know.
Well, I think that's the guy you sort of have to lean on. Grosjean has a lot of experience in F1, right? And so he's got to have some input as well. So it's a combination of those two. And I think it's based on, what the topic might be inside the garage area of who's really taking the lead on that. The other two are definitely, following their lead. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Another team that certainly has to get their house in order, and that's Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing with Graham and Jack and Christian Lundgaard. And there's certainly some engineering changes going on there, not the least of which with a whole new head of engineering and development there. But talking about from an engineering standpoint, Graham Rahal is back with Eddie Jones, who was Graham's race engineer during Graham's more successful season during the kit era when the cars were all kitted out by Honda, and Graham was winning those races with the Shake or not Shake Shack. Yeah. Shake Shack. No. The burger joint, Steak and Shake. And, was winning those races with the Steak and Shake car and all that. And that's who is back on Graham's race engineering stance. So is that going to yield anything for Graham? I don't know. Big deal. Because if you look at these charts, Graham didn't show anywhere, at least from Jack's perspective. And Jack has to perform this year because Jack's been moved out of the 45 IV, and he's now in the situation that was previously run by Christian Lundgaard, and that was the kind of the buffet of sponsorships going on in the number 30 car. And Jack posted the 10th best time on P1.
He did, but I don't expect a whole lot
He didn't do
out of this
anything after
team.
that. Lundgaard was second in P2, and Lundgaard again was 11th in P4. We don't have P3 for some reason. We can't find it. But no show is the guy whose name is on the building.
That is
I'm not
true.
talking about Bobby.
At least in the top 14. Yeah, there's no show.
Yeah, I'm talking about Graham.
Yeah.
So again, is it a big deal or big deal? It might be kind of a big deal because again, we don't know what kind of program that they were running or what they were working on. So it's easy to say, same old. They haven't gotten anything together. All this talk and lip service and everything going on. We don't know what it is, right? We're going to take it kind of with a grain of salt. We're going to take all of this with a grain of salt because it's just practice. It's practice at a track that they have no intentions of running at. Okay, it's practice at a track that is it suited for these cars? Don't really know. I don't know, but they were out there to put on some demonstration laps and to try to get some time behind the wheel and try to sort out whatever bugs need to be sorted out. So does it matter anywhere? Nah, probably not. Does this mean that Ray Hall's still struggling? Maybe not. I guess we'll see.
I don't think they'd be sandbagging. In anything that's going on here. So I think it just comes to they're still trying to figure out the kinks, and with the new engineering group and everything that's taken place at Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan, they're really working on trying to build that culture and build a structure that helps all those drivers move up the grid from where they were last year, because they were pretty it was bad. It was not a pretty sight over there. They've all admitted to it, right? So I think some of this practice is about getting those cars up to speed, which clearly they weren't if you look at the timing charts. So I think there's a lot of work to be done there, and I think for some reason Andretti came off the trailer well, and they stayed there the whole 2 days. So could it be just, hey, we've got this sort of figured out when it comes to road courses versus street courses, right? Because this is definitely a road course, and maybe they've got a good package. You figure Rossi won at Road America, if my memory is right. So last year. So you're shaking your head no?
I don't remember that being the case, but
I know he won one last year, and I'm not sure exactly where it was.
I don't have my regular setup, so I can't.
Oh, okay.
Go through and check it out. Sorry.
So yeah, from that perspective, it's one of those things where, I think they have a setup for road courses, and they came off hot, and they did their thing. So I think Ray Hall, Letterman, and Lanigan they need to continue to do their work in order to be in the top of the field on a regular basis.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say about Ray Hall is also an engineering change is Jack Harvey. It will now be working with Alan McDonald. So Alan's claim to fame was when he put Alex Tagliani, who was in a part-time Indy only, I believe, if memory serves, ride, and put that thing on the pole with Arrow. Before they were Arrow McLaren, right? When it was Arrow. Yeah. Right? Sam Schmidt's team. And so that's who Alan McDonald is. So very capable engineer, somebody who I think with, again, the broader strategy being a little more succinct this year, I do expect better things there. It didn't necessarily translate into this thermal club. My feeling is, and nothing's going to change that, is the times at thermal are a big deal. So as opposed to big deal.
Yeah. And Rossi won at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. So
there you go. Yep.
There it is.
And Herta, right? Colton Herta was good there too. And so that's one of those things. I heard somebody say, and I can't remember who it was, say that the thermal club matched up a little more closer to Portland.
Yeah, potentially, but I think it has some of the styling that the Indianapolis Motor Speedway has too. When you look at the rumble strips and just how it's laid out, I think
a lot in turns, a lot of them in turns, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I think Portland's a much older course, but maybe it did sort of resemble that.
Yeah. Hey, Tim, double points no longer at the Indianapolis 500. Is that a big deal or big deal?
It's a it's a big deal. Everything's a big deal to me right now. I
I
think it's
know,
a
I don't know
big deal
why.
because I don't think anybody wanted it. They got rid of it at the finale, which had been in place for several
Yep,
years, and now finally they decided to remove it from the Indianapolis 500. Um, so, and I think they sort of said that it didn't really make a huge impact on the championship results, but in a way, it's like winning two races, or it was.
yeah,
So I don't think you need double points. I'm fine with it not being there.
me too.
Um,
To me, this is a big deal. Who cares?
yeah, I think it's a who cares, but I think it's a the series going, you know what? We don't really need to have this extra incentive for Indianapolis just because it's Indianapolis, right? I think it's not just another race, but it is another race towards the championship. It means so much more than just getting double points.
It already has its own, right? Its own appeal. It's got the payout, it's got the trophy. You'll always be known as the Indianapolis 500 winner, right?
Hmm.
It isn't, right? It isn't Graham Rahal, two-time, Detroit Grand Prix winner. You know what I mean? It isn't anything like that. It's,
No,
it's not, you know,
it's all in
it
how you
isn't that
stack up
case.
at
So,
Indianapolis and the
right,
500
right.
miler, right?
Yeah.
And it's all if you look at anybody who's won the Indy 500, they've got it in their Twitter feed, and that's who they are, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's how you're almost branded at that point, and to get your face on the board Warner Trophy is a huge feat. And so I don't double points. You don't need it. The event's big enough, and the championship is the championship overall. And one race shouldn't sway the championship one way or another, right? They need to be consistent throughout, which is what we saw last year with Will and what he did to win the championship overall. Even though, Marcus put up a good fight because he won the Indianapolis 500. If he hadn't won the Indianapolis 500, or if he had won it and it wasn't double points, he wouldn't have been, talked about as much about being a contender to win the championship.
Or as long as he was talked about.
Yeah,
Yeah, as long
exactly.
as he was
Yep.
talked about. Can I tell you what I think is a big deal? I,
Yeah.
I think I think it is a big deal that the series has decided that the leaders circle payout will be reduced by 14%. And if you're not familiar with what the leader circle is, it's prize money payouts to the top 22 full-time entries up to a max of 3 entries per team. Unless you're Michael Andretti's team, because Michael Andretti's team was a 4-car effort prior to them instituting that rule. So Andretti will get paid out for his 4 if all 4 of his cars place in the top 22
Hmm.
at the end of the season. The budget at that point, at that time, prior to the change, was $1.06 million that the series paid out to each 22 full-time entry.
So,
That's now going to
just so
be
I'm clear, so you finished in the
mhm,
top 22 in the championship standings. The series pays out 100.06. We'll just say 1
$1.06
million.
million.
Sorry,
Yep,
I can't even.
yep,
Yeah, $1 million.
$1 million.
We'll call it. Yep.
Yep.
So they've
So
reduced that by 14%.
right to $910,000 payout.
Hmm.
We found out about this at Thermal. How the story was written but never confirmed is that the teams found out about it at Thermal.
Wow.
So my question is, how do teams, probably not a big deal for Penske, probably not a big deal for Andretti, right? Probably not a big deal for McLaren. But how
Or
does
Ganassi.
Foyt, right? Ganassi. How does
Hmm.
Foyt, how does Juncos Hollinger, how do they find a 14% gap in their budget that they weren't planning for?
Yeah, you figure you're already committed to the season, right? You've already got full-time entry,
Yeah,
and you're anticipating to hopefully finish in the top 22, right?
that's your
Which
goal,
isn't,
right? Is
yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
your
got to
goal,
get to
right?
this
To
thing
get
so I can, yeah,
the $1.06 million per entry, and then all of a sudden you're cutting that right out of it, almost $200,000, you call it, not quite, but yeah, that's a lot of dough to sort of make up.
It's 100 grand,
Yeah, I guess it's
right?
100
And if
grand.
you're
Yep.
if you're Michael Andretti, it's 400 grand,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I
If you're Chip Ganassi, it's 300,000. It doesn't matter who you are, it's still a lot of money.
yeah,
That's
it
still
is
a
a
lot
lot
of
of
money,
dough,
right?
especially when the cost of everything is going up, as we
Yep.
are as consumers. All of us are,
Mhm.
right?
Everything goes
And
up.
the price of everything is going up, and here you reduce the winner circles payout here. So
Right. So the premise is this will allow Penske Entertainment to repurpose those dollars into a badly needed campaign in marketing and social media and media to be able to put some more dollars against those programs. Probably the downstream effect of that is that if Penske Media or Penske Entertainment is effective at doing that, that it probably helps fill that gap somewhere, that the teams are able to sell some different sponsorship and probably bring in some additional revenue in different places that will help plug that hole, right? That's the hope.
mhm.
I've not heard that they've hired anybody new in their marketing department, because we do know that someone left who was there for many years. We've not heard anybody get plugged in there. Look, Penske Entertainment doesn't owe me a phone call every time they want to make personnel changes or budget changes, but nonetheless, this is who we are. I want to bring up something else here too. Last year, we found out that the Indy Lights, and it was Indy Lights at that time, that payout was reduced by 58%. That was also something that kind of came as a surprise, and it came as a surprise to the winning team, right?
Mhm.
Linus Lundqvist. So let me take you back 2 years. So when Kyle Kirkwood won the Indy Lights Championship in 2021, he picked up prize money of about $1.2 million. Okay. IndyCar contributed $500,000. Anderson Promotions, who was the promoter of Indy Lights at that time, the sanctioning body, or not the sanctioning body, that the company that put it on,
Mhm.
Mazda and Cooper Tires, kicked in the balance. Okay. But when Linus Lundqvist won the championship this past year, he got a check for $500,000 from Penske Entertainment, and no sweeteners. And it was pretty clear on some of the stories that we read there that was kind of a bait and switch for these teams. They were unaware of that. Somebody just assumed, and we know what happens when you assume. Somebody just assumed that with Anderson going away and Penske Entertainment doing the promotional activities for Indy Lights, and Mazda and Cooper Tires was on the way out because they're going to be replaced by Firestone, that the rest of that money didn't kick in. A very inexpensive ride just for the 500 is about $800,000. That's the cheapest you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't even getting that Indy Lights graduate that amount of money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's
So I want you to just chew on that for a second.
yeah.
Here's something else I feel is a big deal, Tim. American open wheel racing, to me, has always been dysfunctional. Right? I've been a fan since 1989. American open wheel racing has been dysfunctional the entire time I've been a fan. Okay. Regardless of what banner it's raced under, IndyCar, Champ Car, CART, USAC, or whatever it was, right back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been dysfunctional. One name I keep coming back to in the middle of all of that dysfunction, Roger Penske. And I'm only saying it from this perspective. He's a billionaire. I admire what he's done, what he's been able to build, not just in his race team, but in general, right? With all of his businesses.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you do that by just pulling the rug out from your partners without somebody picking up the phone and just being transparent and honest about it?
Mm-hmm.
Is Chip Ganassi going to leave the series because he's potentially going to lose $300,000 out of the leader circle? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
But don't these things add up? Because aren't you asking these big teams? I mean, Andretti certainly does. HMD owns half the field, right? And Indy next.
Yep.
But you're asking these teams to consider more strongly in Indy Lights or in Indy Next teams to help build the series, to help drive that pipeline and try to bring all that through? Why would you?
Yeah.
Why would you?
I don't know if it's a project and right sizing the budget for IndyCar at this point. You look at that 14%, it puts $3.3 million back in the hands of the series and the hands of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and ultimately Roger Penske. Can you do more with that by doing some promotional stuff, or can you put it back into the teams that are, got their blood, sweat, and tears in order to make the series what it is? And to your point, when you look at the smaller teams, how do they even, overcome this when you're looking at budgets and you've already budgeted for the season and for the number of cars you're going to have entered into the race, into the series, I should say. So it doesn't look good on paper. The way you lay it out here, it doesn't look good at all. And I think it, would leave a bad taste in anyone's mouth who's fielding a car. And unless there's some bigger plan that, we're just not aware of, and it's going to turn into tenfold of what, the money that they're pulling out will bring back to the series, and somehow it gets sort of back to the participants. But I when you look at the Indy Lights situation and you go, do I want to field a car there to get my feet wet to maybe go to have an Indy car in the series? You look at the reduction there, you go, I don't think so. Maybe it doesn't make sense. And maybe I do something with IMSA, right? And maybe I get my feet wet over
Why not?
there, that looks like it's growing and it's, you got a ton of manufacturers. So,
you don't even have to invest a dime, right? Like I can't imagine that Chip's putting out a lot of money out of his own pocket to go IMSA racing with Cadillac. I'm sure Cadillac's footing all that bill.
Yeah.
That's a factory back team, right?
Yeah. And I think you got to look at the series as it's always been a hobby for business folks that have done really well, right? It's kind of sort of their hobby to go out and put this on and put on racing.
It's not Ricardo Junco's hobby.
No, but that's where it always that's where it sort of originated. Well, that's what it became when we were fans, or what it was when we were fans.
I don't think,
really, in the early days it wasn't that, but
I don't think it's Michael Andretti's hobby either.
No, he's in it to make money.
Trying to build a motorsports empire.
Yeah.
To make money.
But if you look at
400,000 in his case, that's a bite.
It is a bite.
Right.
They might have to take out one of the fountains at the new facility that they're going to put in. Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know the answers. I just wanted to call that out because it's right. It's time to pile on, right? We keep hearing about Indy should be doing this, IndyCar should be doing that. I don't know why IndyCar didn't stream thermal. We're told that Roger and his team shut that down. Right.
Yeah.
We're told that, right, the engines, they didn't come about because it was, hey, Honda, hey, Chevy, you guys are going to have to pick up some of the heavy lifting on the development of this energy recovery system. Well, we can't do both. All right.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we're going to carry on a 12-year-old chassis.
Yeah. I think with the rise of, I know we're going to talk a little F1, with the rise of F1 and what NASCAR has been able to sustain when it comes to fans and viewership and things of that sort, it's going to be telling over the next 2-3 years what happens to the IndyCar, the series here, and what sort of develops and where Roger's able to take it. I know that he's come out under some criticism with what he's done thus far. And, I think that's just sort of
billionaires don't get to be billionaires by being frivolous, right? So
true.
That much I understand, but I mean, the series has to get healthier, and it has to be, you got to invest, and you got to invest in your stakeholders, and your stakeholders are the folks that put the 27 cars on the grid full time. The ones that were knocking on doors trying to get the $6 to $8 million budget per entry. So those are the ones that we've you've got to invest in, and $100,000 doesn't seem like much, but in the grand scheme of things, could Penske Entertainment chip in the extra 3 without having to take it from leader circle? Probably. I don't see why not. But again,
I
I'm
don't see
not
why
in that
not
meeting.
either. But as you
Yeah,
mentioned,
I'm
he's
not
not
in
in
that
the
meeting.
business to lose money. So
Yeah, he can.
yeah,
He
I
can
know
afford it.
he can afford it. So
Yep.
time will
All right.
tell as we sort of move into
Yep.
2023 series and then beyond.
Yep. Hey, in other news, Formula One has started the annual showing of the liveries, right? The decal launches started over the last week. We got to see the Red Bull, the alleged RB19, which would be the 2023 Challenger. It looked a lot like the 2022 Challenger with a few different stickers. Big deal. It's all this is. They're not launching cars. They're launching show cars, right? With
Yeah,
different
so
stickers on them.
there's a lot of hoopla that goes around this, though. It's a lot
I
of
guess it was in New York, but what was really the hoopla? We'll get to it in a minute, right?
yeah.
It was the Ford hoopla.
Mhm.
Williams showed theirs, though I will tell you, I do like the new Williams livery. I saw
I
that
do as
today.
well.
I love where they put the battery, right, from the Duracell sponsorship, right on that roll hoop. That's the perfect place for it because it
It
looks
is
like a battery. Come
it
on,
totally looks like a battery.
right?
Totally.
So
It
that's like the
was
perfect thing to do. I thought that
brilliant
was pretty
marketing
cool.
right there.
Yes,
Yep. Did a
genius.
great job.
So I did like that. Haas, that was certainly last year's car, and they showed the new MoneyGram livery, which goes back to adding the black right back to the body. So that car looks pretty good. We'll see what it looks like. Yeah. So what we alluded to was Ford Motor Company has seemingly, and I'm saying seemingly like it's a possibility, but they're coming back to the F1 grid after more than 20 years away. And they're coming back in partnership with Red Bull. They will allegedly work on a supply of batteries and hybrid technology to be used with Red Bull powertrains in both the Red Bull team and the AlphaTauri team, starting when the new engine regulations kick in 2026. Tim, this is a big deal to me.
I was going to ask you if it's a big deal.
This is a big deal to me because this is like a coup for Ford, right? They got on the right bandwagon because Cadillac jumped on with Andretti, and it's still kind of like, let us think about it for a little bit. Ford's guaranteed to be there.
Yeah.
Right. And there was talk a few months ago that Porsche was going to join up with Red Bull, and that thing's obviously dead. That's not coming
completely.
up, right?
Porsche wanted a stake in the team, I think, isn't that
they did, and that's not going to happen. Yep. So new engine regulations kick in 26. We're going to see the Ford Blue Oval back on what could very well be a continuing championship team, right? So good on them.
I thought I saw something with Ford that they're the third most winning manufacturer in F1 if you look at historically overall, which is interesting
thank you for bringing that up. It's not Ford, right? It's Ford's name on there. They badged that engine. Do you know who that was?
Ilmor?
Let's be honest. Cosworth.
No, Cosworth, that's right.
Right? So Ford was investing, Cosworth was doing all that work, and Ford was putting their name on it. And that Ford Cosworth is, one of the most winning engines, any manufacturers in Formula One history.
Yeah. Ilmor was.
Wouldn't know it from 20 years ago, right? When they started out with Stuart Ford, right? Jackie Stewart's team with his son. And then you wouldn't know it when that team became Jaguar. And if I remember correctly, Bobby Rahal left his team to go run that Jaguar team in Formula One before they decided to bail on that, which I think is the Red Bull team.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
So Tim, riddle me this. What happens to Honda? Right? They're part of the 6 engine manufacturers that have shown interest in the 2026 regs.
Yep.
Interest doesn't necessarily mean commitment. It just means Honda probably thought that they still had a foot in the door here with Red Bull.
Yeah, I would think so. They got to
Who
make
now
a play.
will give Honda wings? Get it? Word play on the Red Bull thing. Come on now.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it.
I need one of these.
I was sleeping on the couch before you text me, by the way, but I'm here and I'm ready. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's going to be played out over, the next year or so, because you got to make that decision fairly quickly to be back in it in 2026 with the new regulations. So I guess you'll see how that sort of flies, and back to the wings, see how that flies.
Yeah, there you go. Love it.
But I
Great job.
think at the same time, you got to look at Andretti and how could they get in? They could get in maybe one of two ways now.
No ways. Andretti's plan is to come in as an expansion team,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because nobody seems to want to sell, and that's the problem with Porsche. Porsche wants a stake in the team. Audi found their partner with Sauber, so that's already locked up. So the first thing I'll tell you is, let me ask you this first, because you brought it up. Andretti Cadillac. If you're Cadillac, how do you feel about this?
Well,
A little aggravated?
I wonder how serious they all are. Maybe they are, and when I say, I just wonder how serious Cadillac is to get in that. They made a statement with Andretti that they were backing them or whatever they were doing. Um, uh, you got to feel bamboozled a little bit, but at the same time, maybe Ford's been in that world before, and maybe they've got some intel that, the folks at GM don't, and so maybe that's how this all came to fruition for Ford, apparently.
I don't know the
And
leap that we're trying to make here. I think Andretti and Cadillac are very serious
Mhm.
about an expansion team. That to me is very serious. I think Ford did a better job of finding a partner and saying, I've got X amount of dollars and we've got batteries to develop together and we've got hybrid technology to develop together. You guys bought out all of that intellectual property and the people and everything from Mercedes and from Honda, and you can build internal combustion engines, which we no longer have any interest in developing. So this is a match made in heaven. And I think
Mhm.
Red Bull said, remind me again the size of the check. And that was, I think, what signs that deal,
Yeah.
right?
And how much interest do you want in the team? Zero?
Exactly. Yeah. You don't want to tell us how to run the team? I'm in. Make that
Yeah.
check out too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll put the
So
oval right on the car. Yeah.
yeah. So then let's go back to Porsche. Porsche is got to be flipping out at this point, feeling like, where do we go? What do we do with this? Because we know that they intended to be in there. The sister team Audi that's coming in, right? That's definitely
Mhm.
coming in. We know that they want an ownership stake. McLaren, that ain't gonna happen. Aston Martin, doubt that.
Yeah.
Williams, that's certainly a possibility. There's a pretty close synergy there with the current form of Williams, Formula One, and Mercedes. So that would be a total unraveling of that.
Mhm.
So, but to also underscore that, if Porsche settled for a partnership with Williams, there's no guarantee for any kind of results there
Yeah.
because Williams has struggled for years now, and there's no guarantee that they would at least become a midfield team
Well, I
at that
think
point.
the series we talk about most has a wonderful spot for them to come in and do some work. So I know that's not their
Absolutely, don't you
interest,
think?
but you got to look at it and go, what do we do from a motorsports perspective? And can we, you know, not only help ourselves, but, be in near the front of the field in a car that is competitive. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out. But, it doesn't seem like there's room for either one of them in the series come 2026 unless they decide that they're going to allow expansion teams to come in. And then you got, like you said, Andretti Cadillac, and I'm sure there's another way for Porsche to get in as well. So
Yeah.
who knows?
I don't know. I did not watch the 24 hours of the clash yesterday in California. I didn't watch 2 minutes of that thing. I saw a lot of Twitter talking about yellow flags and man, I can't believe this thing is still going on. And oh my God, more yellows. And oh my God, I can't believe this thing is still going on. So, but you watched some of it, right?
Yeah, it was
You
the
want
kickoff of the
to enlighten
NASCAR
us?
series. Yeah, yeah, sure. It was the kickoff of the NASCAR series. So I was, I thought I'd tune in because I had a little bit of time last night, but I couldn't watch the final heat race, if you will, because yeah, there were way too many yellows. That was really bad. But overall, you know, I the heat races to get into the finale, whatever you want to call it, those were entertaining. 25 lap race offs and top six got in. Then there was a last chance qualifier, two of those, and the three top drivers got in, and they were fairly entertaining. Those were 50 laps long, and then you got into the main event, and the first 75 laps. You know how this goes, Dan, right? You got the first 75 laps, and if you don't know, the yellow flag laps don't count, so it's only green flag laps, and the
Unreal.
first 75 went by just fine. There's halftime. Never knew there was halftime in races, but there's halftime, and there's a little show that goes on. People dancing, and Wiz Khalifa, I guess, he was up there singing, doing his thing.
Obviously, Wiz wasn't nominated for a Grammy because everybody else was at the Grammys.
Oh yeah, so he was hanging out with the NASCAR crowd, and it was fine. And then we got into the second half, and it was a crash fest, and I tuned out and said, I got to go to bed. And so I looked up this morning who won.
Who won?
Oh, Martin Truex Jr. won the thing at the end of the day. So, which it was interesting because the announcers had talked about him and having a really good car, and he did. I think the thing that IndyCar fans would want to know about the event, Jimmy Johnson was there. They talked to Jimmy Johnson. He was in the booth for a while, and he had some comments about IndyCar and driving, right on the edge, and he wasn't able to do it over the past 2 years, but really liked his experience with the series, as well as Chip Ganassi and the whole gang. So he gave kudos out to the IndyCar teams and drivers, and obviously the talent it takes to drive those. The other thing that I thought was interesting is he got his first practice in the new Cup car, right? Because it's different than when he left. And he was at Phoenix, I think the week before the clash, so last week, and did some testing. And he goes, it took me 5 laps. And he goes, after 5 laps, I was right back at home. Like I could wheel that car around the track. So very interesting how his driving style and technique is very adaptable to the NASCAR and stock cars. And it just wasn't for, Indy cars, and being on that sort of that tight rope in order to get those cars to move quickly around the track. So that,
I saw on Twitter him say that, he couldn't find that edge in 2 years in IndyCar.
Yeah. And so he was very humble about it, which is
absolutely, he's a good guy.
Good. Yeah. Totally.
Good guy. I have all the respect in the world for him.
Yeah.
I really do.
So, and then he talked about his partnership with the new team. And then you had Gwen Stefani on and others. And so they put on a good.
She too, obviously, was not nominated for a Grammy.
She was not. She was there, I guess, with Blake, maybe. I don't know. Good friends with Clint Boyer or whatever. So it wasn't a bad show, except for the final 75 laps, in my opinion.
No interest in it. No interest in that show, though.
It's a quarter
Bristol,
mile.
when it's not dirt. The Daytona 500 and Talladega. It's about it for me.
Restrictor plate racing.
Bristol, August, and Daytona.
Yeah.
Daytona 500, Daytona. What are they? The 400 at 4th of July, and then I watch Charlotte after we get back from Indy.
Yeah, but I like I do enjoy the road courses that they go on. I think it's interesting to watch them go around, the Glen or whatever, wherever they're at, and do their thing. It's entertaining.
It's entertaining. They're going down the road like Roscoe P. Coltrane, right? They're shaking the wheel and they're shifting the thing manually, their hands and all that.
I like that.
Nobody wants that. And
I think one more thing. The other thing that I liked about this, I know we've lost everybody by now, but Daniel Suarez, they interviewed him, and it was good to hear about him and representing Mexico, and just the warmth and cheers that he received from the crowd there in Los Angeles. So, I enjoyed that side of the commentary as well, and what it means to him and what it means to his country, and him being able to represent it in NASCAR. So it was good overall. Lighthearted entertainment.
Because I have no interest in it.
Well,
that is all I have. Tim, you got anything?
I don't think so. That's all I got too from my side. I guess I'm looking forward to the season. We got 4 weeks until we kick off at St. Pete, is my understanding,
March
doing the
5th.
rough math. And
Yep.
we still got to do our predictions, right, for the year.
Yeah, we'll get to that
We'll get to that. And we're doing some
over
other
the next couple of
things,
weeks.
looking to get
Yeah, working on some
an
guests, right?
interview.
We're working
Yeah.
on some people and trying to bring in, some new perspectives and some different opinions here. So, hopefully, if we're able to land that, I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I really
I
do.
think so too.
So, but as always, thanks for listening. Be sure to engage with us on our social media channels. All of our information is found in the show notes. We will catch you at the next one. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great
Yeah,
night.
take care.